G'day everyone, and thanks to Patrick and the Catcher team for having me aboard today. So, VeNA. So we're a SaaS mobile video platform. We have a software very much help app publishers build sustainable businesses, and that's through branded advertising. Core target market for us is not global, it's Asian and app publishers. That's our specific razor-sharp focus. In terms of our current status, we're profitable, independent, recently got some investment, which was great, and doing multiple millions of dollars of revenue. So in terms of our credentials, so the great thing is from the Australian government, we've been able to secure some grants. The great thing about that, of course, is that it validates the technology and software. Recently, we also made the regional finals of Echelon. We came third at Tech in Asia in Jakarta, and off the back of that, we're one of two startups selected to attend a big conference in Moscow via the Russian government in June, which will be quite interesting for an Aussie. So, how do we make money for these app publishers in ASEAN? We create and inject video ad inventory into these apps via our SDK. So I'm sure you've seen TV commercials before, 15, 30-second type commercials and interactive type commercials. Then what we do is we connect that programmatically on a real-time basis globally to over 120 demand sources. So in terms of a couple of recent sample ads, here's a couple. But the key thing here, and one of the key questions we get asked from app publishers is, I don't want it to be too intrusive, okay? So we're very adamant that they have complete editorial control. It's not our job to tell them where, when, and how many of these ads to show. If they want to run a very small sample, or even less than one per user per month, that's fine, that's not our role. So if you think about the way the software works and how it connects and the flow chart, in the top right-hand corner you've got the consumer. They come into the app environment. They'll be then exposed to a branded ad injected via our software. When we talk about demand sources, we're defining that as anyone like an exchange, a DSP, an advertiser, or of course an agency that typically will do the majority of these types of programmatic buys. The key thing here is there'll be data under the hood passing through, and the key thing for us with our core target market of the app publisher is to make sure they get higher incremental revenue, complete transparency and control. So the commercial model's pretty simple, fully managed. That's where VeNA does all the work and the app publisher gets a passive incremental revenue stream. They can be left to drive traffic, drive subscriptions, do whatever they want to do, and we nail it for them. We also have the SaaS license fee approach, self-serve. This is very much a big scalable opportunity for us, and Nirvana for us is to enable and train up as many app publishers as possible to use the VeNA software. On top of that, if there's a need or requirement for ad serving, which typically is a requirement for big media advertisers, that's available. We have a full video stack as well. So in terms of the value proposition for app publishers, and I guess the key problems that we address, firstly, if you think about the non-paying app subscribers, so this whole freemium model, anywhere up to 98% of subscribers for a specific app don't pay and have no intention to pay. So this is obviously a clear value exchange for that, and it allows the publisher to generate decent revenue. On the other hand, there's also completely free apps, okay? And for these, especially in ASEAN markets like Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, these are very much low credit card usage, okay? So they're very much cash-based economies. So that's where we really add a heap of value for those. I mean, it's interesting coming from Australia in such a small population, and you travel to somewhere like Jakarta, and I had a meeting a couple of months ago, and the app owner only had a staff of 5, and they said, look, we've only got 1 million consumers, is that enough? So those are, that's exactly why we're in this space, in this market. Secondly, it might be fragmented or, of course, an early stage market. And we heard from Sean from Frontier earlier, around all these early stage markets with undeveloped ecosystems and certainly far from advanced ad markets. And finally, there might be infrastructure challenges. So it's less so of an issue here in KL and capital cities like Jakarta, but certainly as you get out a little bit, there can be infrastructure challenges with latency and the ability to serve very quickly these branded video ads. Now, the key reason why that's super important is because if you miss even 1 or 2%, that's completely foregone ad inventory. So the key is to keep that as low as possible. So how do we do that? What we do is we have an adaptive bitrate with our methodology. So we alter the size of the video file depending on the internet connection. So 1, we deliver it quickly, and 2, we make sure we're not chewing up a heap of data for the end consumer. Secondly, we partner with localization experts to bring the lowest possible latency, so we auto-select the server closest to the end consumer. One of the key questions we most often get asked is, but we don't have video content. The reality is, with our software, you don't need any video content. The great thing about that, of course, is you don't have to worry about CDNs hosting video players and then also worrying about, well, gosh, we've got to drive traffic to view these video ads to then get premium ad rates. So what's the UI look like currently? On the right, you've got a screenshot of the current dashboard. The great thing too is with our dashboard, we not only have one for the app publisher, so they can see 24/7 how much they're earning in which market for which ad format, but also they can provide a dynamic report for anyone accessing their inventory. So let's say an app publisher was selling to a ad network, for example, and they were selling it to another intermediary who's then selling it to an advertiser. They can get 24/7 access to that specific individual campaign report automatically. Just saves a lot of ad ops time, which is the bugbear for these operations teams and traffickers. In terms of what's coming, key points here is virtual rewards and CPI. So to date, we've been specifically and purely focused on branding. Moving forward, that's obviously a whole new ecosystem. If you think about cost per app install, virtual rewards, and the ability to do financial transaction models, commerce, etc., it's quite large. And then secondly, telcos. We've had really good interest from telcos in the region, and they see it as a huge opportunity for all the reasons we've been exposed to thus far today. So, we've onboarded these app publishers. We've connected them and their inventory and created this new inventory via our software. And now, well, how are we adding value for the advertiser? Well, first thing is they can purchase that inventory globally through any sort of platform that they want, whether they're sitting in the US or Australia or wherever it might be. The second part of it is we bring new consumers, new geographies, new targeting and inventory that they can then overlay their data. So if they're a car auto manufacturer, if they're a home lender, whatever it might be, they can overlay their own data. We bring new app publishers and new ad formats. We're not just talking to the same old media companies and the same old gaming apps and basically just regurgitating the same inventory and data. And most important, when we actually, with regards to data, we're actually adding to the value chain there too. So we're doing so by, we pass back to the demand source whatever information we can get, and we insist on getting access to everything from the app publisher. So what does that mean? It means things like operating system, device, whether the app ID, the user ID, the device, and obviously latitude and longitude and things like this. The more information, obviously, the more saleable and the more buckets of inventory this individual ad unit can go into. So they're full screen, compelling and often interactive ads. So with regards to interactive, you can literally, if it was a movie campaign, you can do, like this one, you can do data capture, you can get behind the scenes footage, you can literally within the ad learn more about where to buy tickets and actually take action. The great thing about the full screen ads too is that it's full screen, less viewability issues, performance is 8 to 20 times better, and obviously get higher rates in terms of ad rates. Our target market and size, 300 million Asian smartphone consumers, and it's growing by 3 million per month, forecast for the next 5 years. In terms of the app publishers, 250,000 or more, apps unlikely to be capturing any video ad revenue currently. The market's forecast to grow to 85 billion. That's a global figure. And if you read any of the Facebook advertisements, it's all about ASEAN, mobile and video. So in terms of our strategy, staff and culture, attract and retain the best. Passionate, persistent, and doing things really quickly. Onboarding local ASEAN publishers with local languages, which is obviously very big with iFlix. Align pricing to the Asian cost base, so that the reality is if it's 10% of the cost or rate versus Australia, the reality is we need to set the bar lower to accommodate that. It's a volume game in ASEAN markets. Target publishers, one of the key questions we get, we're actually going after verticals such as classifieds. So I'm hitting up Sean later in terms of FDV side of things, but telcos as well, utilities. Utilities quite broad. It can be anything from weather, transport, health, nutrition, horoscopes, but there's an amazing amount of apps that simply don't have any sort of video revenue currently. High scale, low friction onboarding process and tech integration to make it seamless. Our team, so some of the brands we've worked with, I've got to say that the most learnings I've ever had was with REA Group, working with people like Simon Baker, Sean and Georg. That allowed me to then go on and build and subsequently successfully exit a digital sales house whereby we worked and did all the repping for Seek in Australia and New Zealand a few years back. So in conclusion, with macro tailwinds, we see an awesome opportunity for our software to help apps grow and flourish in ASEAN. Thank you.